Well, welcome to the Iron Chapel. I need to go live on TikTok. Hold on. Boop. Nope. Boop. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Iron Chapel. I'm Jared Elrod, aka the Iron Chaplain. So we're still working on getting the physique to match the title. So all right, let's get in. Let's get in today. No, I like using, I write with the purple one, but I like using the pink one as the pointer. So let's go over what today's set's gonna be. It is gonna be leg day. I'm not gonna lie, it was a bit of a challenge I had to well, once again, there's only 5 instead of 6 exercises. And I had to change a lot of stuff up because I don't have machines. So here's what we're doing. It's day 3, leg day, quad focused. I have 2 leg days in my workout set. So barbell hack squats, 4 sets of 10 to 12. So we're gonna use the barbell. And then we're gonna have kettlebell squats, 4 sets, 12 to 15 reps. Again, I'm probably gonna have to go higher on these just because of actually, I have low weights. Dumbbell lunges, those are gonna suck for 3 sets at 15 reps each. I'm not doing 15 reps on each leg. We're gonna, wait, no, I have to, huh? We might do 10 on each leg for a total of 20. Let's go, yeah, we're gonna probably, yeah, I hate those. And then we're gonna do standing barbell calf raises, 4 sets, 15 to 20. And single leg body weight calf. Those are awkward, guys. I haven't figured out a great way to record those and them not just be like it's awkward. So I don't know, we'll figure it out. I normally cut those out when I do the gym vlogs. What did I cut out? I cut out, the leg curls, because I'm not laying down and doing the whole with the dumbbell and accidentally dropping it on my butt. That's not happening. Today's quote is from Muhammad Ali. You probably have all heard this one. I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion. So that quote is apropos for today because, I think I used that word right, because it's leg day, and I don't like leg day, and I kind of don't want to do anything today, to be honest. I got it today. I went to do my warm up. I only did like 1.5 miles instead of my 3 miles, which I went up to 5 miles because they messed up with my arrangement in there. They did me a huge favor, but we have candlelight service tonight, so we had to add a bunch of chairs in because it's like our biggest service of the year. And so the room is packed with chairs, so I don't have my round little area to go around. Getting redundant here. Why do I always have friends messaging me? Oh, I guess it's because it's when he goes to work. Mark on me as soon as I go live. And so yeah, I didn't get a good walk in because it was like weird and I had to like go and stop and turn around. And so that was awkward. And I only did like 1.5 miles, so that wasn't whatever. And I was like, I'm not feeling it today. I kind of don't want to do anything. And it's leg day. So we went with a quote from Muhammad Ali because it seems to fit. So let's get into this. So the first thing are these barbell hack squats. So we got to set this up. I think I'm going to go with the 45s. If we need to, we can add on these 15s. Oh, let's just move this out of the way for an extra 30 pounds of weight. So let's get this started. These things are massive, big honking. They're only 45 pounds, but they look like they're way, way heavier. But they're not. I don't know, just the way they made them. They must have used a lighter material, so that's why they make them so thick. And then my bar, which is also 45 pounds, I swear is like oh, am I gonna have room for this in here? Because I got this light. I'm gonna have to move this light. Did not think this through. Okay. I'm gonna have to move a couple things. Oh, I can do it this way. There we go. That's what we'll do. Sorry, light. I didn't have to move you. I personify everything. I talk to inanimate objects. Did anyone else do that? Did anyone else grow up like in Walmart? Like going to Walmart thinking that, like the security team was watching them and like you wanted to help them out, not the security team, but Walmart in general. I didn't realize there was a division between security, like loss prevention and normal workers. But I knew they had cameras, And anyone else like, make sure like if you walked around holding a toy to show your mom or whatever, you always went and put it back. And imagine like the workers were like, why is what the heck? This battery might be too heavy for this tripod. There we go. There we go. And then just like I had this like which is funny because this is now a thing in like China, but I had this like imaginary like social score that Walmart would give me because I'd always put my stuff back. I wouldn't make them. It was weird. And then I personify things. So everything's alive, everything has feelings, and everything has a motive. It's really weird. I probably really need to see a therapist. But why see a therapist when you have weights to lift, right? Is that the point of weightlifting? Just to avoid therapy? Speaking of emotional health and well-being, so we're going to be in chapter 1 of Matthew today. I should probably read it. I guess I'll do that in a second, maybe after this. So we'll be in Matthew chapter 1. We're going to be talking about, as I promised yesterday, King Herod, the Magi. Why am I already out of breath? King Herod, the Magi, and the priests. So, I'm going to do this first though. So I think I should start by reading it. I don't want to start by reading it yet because I want to get a set of these in. This is 10 to 12. What is this? 45, 45, 45. So that's a multiple of 45. What is that, like 1? I used to know this by heart. I can't math. I'm not going to try to. I am going to drink some Mountain Dew. We are also going to pretend like this is vitamin water, okay? This is a judgment-free zone. No judgment. I am drinking water. I didn't fill it up though, so it's only like a quarter of a gallon. So we're gonna pretend like this is vitamin water, just like that can, that black and green can yesterday was vitamin water. Ah, there we go. It's more of like a bottle of happiness rather than vitamin water. Okay, dang it, you guys are watching, so I have to actually go low on these. I don't like squats. These are even worse, these hack squat ones, because they're so awkward. Okay. No one to blame but myself. Here we go. I'm the one who set this up and decided to do this. Okay, one more check. 10 to 12. We're going for 10. All right, here we go. Okay. Oh. We won't count that as one. Here we go. Here we go. 1. I gotta change my hand placement. 2. There we go. Much better. 3. 4. 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I don't want to hear you saying I'm not going down far enough because those are touching. It's not my fault my arms are long. I told you I'm 6'7". Some of this stuff's awkward. It counts. Whew. The thing I don't like about leg day is not why most people don't like leg day. I don't care about leg workouts. I'm fine with them. I don't like compressing my core. See how out of breath I am? I hate compressing my core. I feel like I'm swimming. I'm out of breath. Okay. We're actually going to read from, did I say chapter 1? I meant to say chapter 2, but we're going to actually start with chapter 1. We're going to read 18 through 25, and then we're going to go do a set, and then we're going to read 1 through 12, probably do another set, and then read 13 through 23, because I don't want to read all this at once. It'll get to be too much like, we're learning things. So the birth of Jesus Christ, Matthew 1:18. Now the birth of Jesus Christ took place in this way, when his mother Mary had been betrothed to Joseph. Before they came together, she was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit, and her husband Joseph, being a just man and unwilling to put her to shame, resolved to divorce her quietly. But as he considered these things, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not fear to take Mary as your wife, for that which is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Joseph woke from sleep, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him. He took his wife, but he knew her not until she gave birth to a son, called his name Jesus. So yeah, interesting. We don't ever point out, but like Joseph was in a sexless marriage for a while, and his wife was pregnant. So homeboy's got some faith there. But I guess when you're visited by an angel, it's not so much faith as like just obedience, right? Okay, I'm going to talk about those verses actually before we read the rest. But first, let's do another set. We're going to stick to 10 because these suck. We're going to count it from 1 coming up this time. I'm going to keep going. I have to take this off after this. I'm already getting hot. What am I wearing? Black shirt. What is it? Oh, I remember. Okay. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, there's a bend in my back there. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Whew, I realize you can see part of the TV screen today. Okay. All right. Let's talk about those for a second. So, Joseph divorcing her, their marriage worked a little different back then. I gotta catch my breath for a second. Whew, that's a lot of compression in my core. I hate core compression. I gotta take this off. I normally don't take this off until you can't hear me. All right, got our set apart Youth Con, Presence Con 2025 shirt on, 3X, so it fits nice and baggy. I have to pull my hair back in a second. Okay, so Joseph, their marriage worked different. So their betrothal, their engagement, kind of already acts like a little bit of what we think of as marriage already. So that's why they're not married yet. I belong to Jess. Okay. Fixing this camera real quick. So it's a different process. So for them, engagement is already part of the marriage process. So the fact that he's engaged, he couldn't just call it off. He would have to actually divorce her at that point. And so from his perspective, he's married. Now he's probably older than her. I don't know, 20, 30, something. He's definitely older than her, which is why he's not around at Jesus' crucifixion. He probably died off, right? So he's married to this young girl, or engaged to be married, so that they're not going to have been sexually active, right? Because that would have been taboo in their culture. Not that it didn't happen, but less than our culture. So they're engaged, find out she's pregnant. So logically, he's thinking she's been unfaithful. She's slept with someone and gotten pregnant with someone else's kid. But he's still, a good guy. He doesn't want to shame her and necessarily, all this stuff. So he's just going to divorce her quietly rather than making a public spectacle of it. Probably take on the rumors himself. Well, I wonder what went wrong, blah, 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 So he gets visited by an angel in a dream. I mean, it's interesting. Everyone in this story up to this point, we'll talk about this more later, is visited by an angel. His is through a dream, but it's still an angel. Everyone else just get, Mary, Martha, just about everyone else is getting like the wise men, not the wise men, sorry, the shepherds. They're all getting like angels. Joseph's is an angel through a dream. They're all getting these visitations. So he decides, you know what? She was unfaithful, not marrying this chick. Heck no. But I don't want to ruin her life any more than she's already ruined it. So I'm just going to divorce her quietly. I'll move on. Find someone eventually. Maybe. Getting kind of old. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'll be a bachelor. I'm making this stuff up. I don't know if he actually thought this or not. And then he gets the dream, and an angel comes to him in a dream and is like, hey man, chill out. She didn't cheat on you. She's still a virgin. This is a supernatural birth. She hasn't been with anyone. Immaculate conception, right? As the Catholics like to say. Marry her. This is what, is going to happen. And then he marries her, and it wouldn't have been 9 months, but for however many months until she actually has the kid, like I said, they're not intimate. So he marries her on the faith that she wasn't unfaithful, and they get married, and they don't immediately get to have a sexual relationship. So he's really, really going with this obedience and faith here. So we'll pick back up after that. After this set, we have 2 more. Halfway done. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Knock it off. 8, 9, 10. There we go. It's a little better. A little better. Whew. Sorry, my hair is still bugging me. I'm gonna pull it just into a ponytail. So it stays behind. Okay. That way we still kind of have that weird anime look going on. It's all poofy today, but hopefully it stays in the back a little bit more. All right, let's read the next section. All right, starting at chapter 2, verse 1. Now after Jesus, hold on. I put this on a little crooked. Whatever. Now after, wait, did I read all that? Yeah. So chapter 2, verse 1, Matthew 2:1. Now Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king. Behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And assembling, my voice just cracked. That was awesome. Like I'm going through puberty or something. And assembling all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They told him in Bethlehem of Judea, for so it is written by the prophet, and you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, For from you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. Verse 7. Then Herod summoned the wise men secretly and ascertained from them what time the star had appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word that I too may come and worship him. After listening to the king, they went on their way, and behold, the star that they had seen when it went before them. I'm not reading very well today, guys, sorry. Until it came to rest over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy, and going into the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother. And they fell down and worshipped him. Then opening their treasures, they offered him gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And being warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed to their own country by another way. All right, so that was 1 through 12. We've got one more set of this nonsense, then we can dive into some of that commentary. See if we have any comments. I don't think so, but I'm going really fast. I'll check more later. As always, I'll stop at the end and answer questions. Eventually, I want to get to where I want us to get more interactive. Once you guys are actually be more interactive, I'll have it set up where I could see all your comments on the screen as they come up. Until then, I'll just periodically check on there and then read through them all at the end. So yesterday, I got wished Merry Christmas from Pennsylvania. That was fun. That was cool. I like that. Thank you, Susie. Okay, 10. This is set 3. I have 2 more of these. Dang it. How am I only halfway through this? Oh well. Okay. 1. Whew. Six. Not saying it. 8. 9. And 10. I think we'll go for 12 on the last one. I'm definitely getting warmed up. Okay. What's next? We got kettlebell squats. All right, that'll be a little easier. Kettlebell squats, we can do that. We can manage that. All right, we got a lot of stuff in that little portion. We actually probably won't make it past that portion today. That's probably where we spend the rest of our day. Whew. Still a little winded. Still a little winded. Got a nose strip. I haven't worn those in a while. Stuck to my floor. Okay. My thing is, as I learn the Bible more and I get more into it, I realize a lot of the things I was taught as a kid, or rather than the things I was taught, but the way things were presented to me as a kid, has kind of led to like, turn it down a little bit, like a misrepresentation in my head. For one thing, right? We grow up thinking of the manger scene. Let's draw a little manger here, okay? Let's go. It's like a little barn, right? Whoop. It's a little stable. Oh, that's a big post. Oh, that's an even bigger post. This thing's really strong against the wind, right? You got like Mary. You got Joseph, he's probably a little taller. You got the little trough here. Little baby Jesus, right? In the little trough. You got all the little animals, right, over here. moo, watching, right? Just a bunch of them. Just imagine a bunch of little animals over here. And then it shows typically like you're gonna have, you got the 3 wise men. Let's put them over here, right? Gold, frankincense, myrrh. Got the little 3 wise men over here with their gifts. Boop. Typically have like a bunch of shepherds. Let's just say this is the shepherds. There's a lot of them, right? They're all back here behind the animals. Let's just say this big thing is all the shepherds. And then, you know, depending on how you grew up, maybe you got the little drummer boy right here, right? Rum pum pum pum. Now, the problem with this picture is it's grossly inaccurate. Now, this is largely, I think, like a Hallmark kind of thing, right? So what would this have actually looked like? Okay, well, first off, the little drummer boy, that was just made up. That never existed. And then here at the manger, no wise men. It would have just been the shepherds that came to see him. So the majority of this is, it's like it's all nativity scenes, all right? So you grew up thinking of like that whole scene, everyone coming. That's not the way it would have been. Yes, the shepherds would have come and whatever, but the wise men were later. Jesus was like a toddler. He was like 2. They were staying in a house. We haven't got to that yet. So that is largely inaccurate, that picture. The other thing too is like the wise man most likely was a military caravan or a convoy, not just 3 wise men on camels. In fact, they probably had like war elephants and stuff, but whatever, that's a whole nother story. So let's do this last set. I want to start off with talking about Herod. But my whole point in saying all that was this idea that when we grew up in church, Sunday school, the different things, we start to get these ideas and we put together these kind of inaccurate pictures. And so this picture of like this cute little Bible story, Christmas story, largely doesn't convey the truth of the matter. And so we want to kind of dissect that a little bit today, again, by talking about Herod, the wise men, aka the Magi, and I never set my workout, dang it. Okay, let's do this real quick because my personal trainer does track these. Dang it, I'm like hecka. How long have we been going? Where are we at? Does it say? Neither of these say. I'm just gonna let it go a little bit after I'm done to compensate. So yeah, we get like these false pictures. So we talk about Herod, the wise men, aka the Magi, and the priests. I don't think we'll get it to all today, but we will for sure at least talk about Herod. And if we don't quite get into all the wise men stuff, we'll try to get through Herod and the wise men, the Magi, and then maybe tomorrow we can talk about the priests. So I know I said I wasn't doing it tomorrow because it's Christmas, but I won't live stream, but I will probably still do a workout just in the evening, which means, so tomorrow there'll be a video because today's, it will be tomorrow. See, it's getting confusing. Anyways, no live stream tomorrow, TikTok. You guys on like the vlog, you're probably still gonna have an episode because I will probably come Christmas Eve or Christmas evening and still do a workout and quickly get it edited and uploaded for Thursday morning. So, okay, let's do this last set and move on. One more. Oh, we're going for 12. Why did I say that? Okay. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 2 more, 11, and 12. Okay, done with that. Done. Next is kettlebell squats, which should be a lot easier. Whew. Let's hope so. We're just gonna move this. I don't want to undo it yet. I can do that later. Just move it out of the way. Move it out of the way. There we go. Whew. So my kettlebell is only 35 pounds. So that's what we'll be using. 4 sets, 12 to 15. Okay, who is Herod? Let's look at Herod for a second. He's king of the Jews, but he's not even Jewish, okay? Herod is not a great, we're gonna take a little bit of a longer break. I think that's what we'll do is in between the sets, I'll do quick little things and I'll take a little bit longer break, or in between the reps and a little bit longer break in between the sets. So Herod, not a great ruler. He was king, he got by just political maneuvering the title king of the Jews, but he's not even Jewish. He's, oh, what is it? Is he, I think he's a descendant of one of their enemies. I can't remember. I listened to it this morning, reviewed it this morning, but I can't remember. So he's not even Jewish. I think his wife is partially Jewish. I think on Sunday I said he might have been like a little bit Jewish. I think it might have been his wife. Anyways, he's not a Jew. Doesn't even qualify. He, through political maneuvering, gets this position and this title, king of the Jews. They freaking hate him. He's not a good king. He's paranoid. He's, manipulative. What's the other word? Paranoid, egotistical. I guess we'd say narcissistic. He's very selfish, self-centered. And he's not great. I made the joke, I shouldn't say this. I made the joke in Round Mountain that, what were the two words? Paranoid and, was it self-centered? Paranoid and delusional? I don't know. Anyways, I made the joke that he's the kind of king that probably puts plaques up under the pictures of all the other kings in the palace, disparaging them. But politics aside, he wasn't a very good king. They hated him. So it's interesting, like when it says in verse 3, I think, when Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. So there's really two questions to answer there, okay? Why was Herod troubled when these 3 old dudes on camels just came in town with some gifts? Why was he so troubled? And even if he was troubled, why would the town of Jerusalem be troubled? Because if they don't like him, if they hate him, wouldn't any political problems for him be good for them? So I'm gonna take a drink here. Take a second, comment, leave a comment. If you're watching, pause, go leave a comment. If you're live, leave a comment. Why do you think both Herod, first off, why would Herod be troubled by these 3 little wise men coming through town? And even if he was, why would the town care? Good stuff. I love those bottles of happiness. So the reason Herod cared is because, one, like I said earlier, it would have been probably most likely a military escort. This isn't 3 wise men coming in on little camels. This is probably a military escort. So this isn't, okay, think of it this way. This isn't like a couple of dirt bikes coming to your town, down to like Main Street, come up to City Hall, or, a couple of motorcycles. I live out in rural, so it'd be dirt bikes. For you, a couple nice, Harley Sportsters, Honda Shadows, whatever, come rolling into town, boop, kickstands out, these guys get out, walk in City Hall, hey, we're coming, we heard about this, king was born, king of the Jews was born. This would be more of like, you look and you see a motorcade with like, from a foreign country, Russia, whatever, right, China, and they're like armored limos with their flags flying, and like tanks and Humvees and like soldiers coming in with them. And they roll up to your city hall, or right? That would freak you out. That would be a little of a different story, as they say in, see, I can't make a witty quip and then forget it. Wizard of Oz is then requoted in Gilmore Girls. That's a horse of a different color, or another color, however it goes. So that is more of the picture of what Herod was seeing, and it's with a foreign empire that they are not on good terms with. And we'll talk about that more in a second. We're gonna get into this. We're gonna talk about Herod, and so we already talked about Herod quite a bit. Say anything else I want to say? Oh, it was said of Herod that it was safer to be a dog in his palace than to be a family member. He killed his first son because of political rivalry reasons. He was replaced by his second son, but he was he was hated even more than Herod, and he was disposed of pretty quickly. Herod is at the end of his rule, right? So he's older, probably already has some sort of sickness that will eventually lead to his death. I just made that up. No, I read that in some commentaries. I don't know how they got to that. But basically, he's older. He's at the end of his rule, the end of his life. And so it seems odd why this... Even if, okay, fine, this baby is getting born who's going to become the king of the Jews. Who cares, right? That's like Joe Biden at the end of, like, let's say he got the presidency, right? He didn't drop out. Kamala didn't take over for him. And he went against Trump and won. So Biden is now in for a second term. He's like older than dirt, right? Like, no disrespect. Like, we get old. It's part of the process. And then, you know, it's the natural process of things. But he's like really old. So let's say Biden is in his second presidency. He's like 80-something. I think he's 80-something when he was old, right? And let's say he's on like year 2 or 3 of his second term. And he hears about this kid that was just born, recently born, that a bunch of senators and congressmen from another country, their version of their politicians, want to go and you know, meet this kid who was born to be the future, like, president. Why would Biden care? He's not going to be around for it. He's like, by the time this kid is old enough to run for the president, become the president, he's not taking the presidency from me. I'll be gone. So it's kind of weird. Like, why would Herod have been so upset about a kid who is going to be crowned the king of the Jews, prophesied to be the king of the Jews, long after he's done and you know, 6 feet under? That's a good question. We'll get to that in a second. I've kind of started answering it a little bit. Oh, okay. 4 sets. Oh, 12 to 15. How do I want to do these? I think I want to do them like this. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna go wide. I don't want to go narrow. We're gonna go wide. I was kind of doing narrow on the last one, so. Oh, I'm gonna stretch it out. 1, 2. You know what? Forget that. We're doing it like this. Oh yeah. 3, 4, 5. 9, 10, 11, and 15. Okay. 15. There we go. Okay, so that sets the picture for Herod. Let's answer the question. Let's actually adjust this camera real quick. There we go. A little better. So, why is Herod so troubled? Well, I already kind of started answering it by talking about the military convoy, right? Rather than just the three old wise men. You gotta also realize who the wise men are, the magi. In fact, fun fact, it comes from the word that they're magistrates. We get the word magistrator, right, from that word. So the magi, they're coming from the Parthian Empire. Now, you probably know a lot about the Roman Empire, okay? Raise your hand. Leave a comment, right? Do you know about the Roman Empire? Right? Do you remember that trend going around? And I want you to like the video if you remember this trend. Do you remember that trend where wives were recording themselves or recording their husbands, and they'd walk up on their husband and be like, hey, honey, babe, sweetie, pookums, whatever. How often do you think about the Roman Empire? And most of the husbands were like, how do you know anything about the Roman Empire? And that one guy, it went viral because he was like, I actually thought he was gonna kill his wife or something. It got real weird real fast. He was like, how do you know what I'm thinking? How are you in my mind? And he got really weird. I'm like, oh, honey, you need to leave. You just accidentally unlocked some of his psychosis there. He was almost violently how do you know? Can you read my thoughts? What's going on? Are you going through my phone? And I was like, get out, get safe. And so this idea of, we know about the Roman Empire, the Roman Empire, and through the Roman Empire, Greek philosophy and Western culture has really influenced our country, pretty much the whole world. But the Parthian Empire was from the east. In fact, their empire went from, I think it was started around the Euphrates, but don't quote me on that. And it kind of goes all the way up to, I mean, not exactly, but it pretty much butts up against like China, okay? So, you know, Middle East. So what is it like? Talking like Afghanistan, I think, modern day, up to, in some other country, up to like almost like to the boundaries of like, if they go any further, they're now going to start having war and issues and stuff with China. I'm not saying they went literally to China, but up to that territory, right? That's like the next big empire. The Parthians weren't as big as the Romans, and if there was ever an all-out war, like the Romans would have probably definitely won. But the Parthians and the Romans end up getting in war. It's like a 700-year conflict between the Parthians and the Romans. It gets kind of crazy, like little border skirmishes, little things here and there. The Parthians really never pushed that far into like Roman Empire, but the Romans would then try to push into, and they would take a city and then they would get defeated, and there'd be like, there was one where like the Romans went in and they took over a town and then they got defeated. They lost like 30,000, 40,000 soldiers, lost the leader. Was like a huge loss for the Romans. So they never went to like all out war. This was like 700 years of kind of tit for tat, back and forth type conflict. And it went on for a very, very long time. I said about 700 years. We'll pick up from there in a second. That's a long time, guys. 700 years. Whew. I said Rome was bigger. I meant like the Roman Empire, they had a lot more population. There wasn't a huge population density in the Parthian Empire because it's arid, it's desert-like, they don't have the same water, agriculture to support as high of a population density. So if they had the exact amount of square space, there would have been still a lot less Parthians. Is that what you call them from the Parthian Empire? I don't know, they're descendants of the Medes. We'll get into that in a second. But it's the modern day version of, well, their modern day version of what the Babylonian Empire had become. But again, now we're going all the way back to the book of Daniel, and we'll get into that here in a minute. Okay, so what am I doing? 15? Okay. There we go, 15. Oh yeah, a little lower maybe? Is that one? Yeah, I can feel that. That feels good. Oop, that was 16. I wasn't paying attention. 16. I got sound of music in my head. I am 16, going on 17. Leave your questions and comments if you're watching live. If you're watching this later, leave your questions and comments. I'll come back to them. I'll either answer them or most likely I'll incorporate them into a future episode. I don't like answering with a comment. I did that because you're typing, or I guess like that. Because when I type, I've learned over the years, I come off sarcastic, hostile, whatever, and angry and condescending. So it's easier for me to just put it into an episode instead of I respond to you and then all of a sudden we're in an argument. I'm like, how do we get in an argument? And it's like, because what I said seemed offensive, and so yeah, probably just pull it into an episode. In fact, every so often, if we start getting enough comments and interaction, every so often I'll just do a Q&A episode where I would go do something cool and just do a Q&A episode. So, okay, Parthian Empire. Where am I going to go next? So, okay, the Parthians, this is all the way back to like, the Babylonian, right? The book of Daniel, they're captive. Israel's captive by, Babylon. So we think of like Israel as captive by the Roman Empire, right? So they're not their own nation state. They're being occupied by Rome. But you gotta think, up until this point, relatively recently, they've been more often than not occupied by what is now the Parthian Empire. So first it was Babylon, and then the Babylonian Empire. You remember Daniel had the whole prophecy with the gold head and shoulder, and it went down all the way down to like then the brass, and then all the way down to like the clay feet. So there's the Babylonians, and then like the Medes come in. So we got like the Persians, and then there's like the Perso-Median Empire. Like we have all this stuff to the point where now where we are, that empire kind of stays the same. It keeps, yes, there's some overthrow, but a lot of it, from my understanding, stays pretty similar from a 50,000 perspective, view. Like some of the leaders and governments change over to a point where it's almost like a succession to where it was like Babylonian, the Persian Empire, blah, blah, blah. Now we're the Parthian Empire, kind of an evolution of that, just kind of coming on down, right? And so we think of like Israel, Rome is there, but more often than not, all throughout the Old Testament, it would have been the precursor to the Parthian Empire. So, you had Babylon, the Persian Empire. So like Israel is basically a buffer state. Now I'm not going to be able to draw this, but let's pretend like I think I can draw this. So if we've got, I don't know if you can even see this that well. So let's just say, oh geez, this is really bad. Let's say over here's like the Parthian Empire, right? Just put a big P. And then over here we got like, all this other, well, not there. Like all this other stuff. We got like Italy, right? Oh, that's wrong. I did that backwards. Whatever. I don't know what Rome looks like. The Roman Empire over here. And then in between them is this little buffer state, right? So put R's over here for Roman. There's this little buffer state. So you got one empire on one side, another on the other side, and then in between them is Israel. And so these guys over here, these guys over here, more often than not, I might have drawn that backwards, or, no, I don't think so. Yeah, no, because then the east would be over here. Yeah, and the west over here. This area had conquered them more and occupied them more often than not. These guys now on the left, on the west, have them. But again, these have had issues and political and military actions against each other. And so this is kind of like a buffer state where these guys typically control this land of Israel, but now these guys, the Romans, are currently controlling it. So when they roll in, this military convoy rolls in, Herod's freaking out because, first off, he's barely has his kingship. He's a terrible king. Like I said, it's barely holding on. He's on a slippery slope, as it were. And you gotta remember with the Romans, like, if you go back now, if we skip forward to Easter, this is why Pilate is like not wanting to crucify Jesus. And when he finally gives in, he's like, I wash my hands of this, because he's worried, because when you fail, they basically threaten him. He's like, no, I'm not doing it. And they're like, if you don't, we're going to revolt, and then you're going to basically lose your position and maybe your life. And so if they can't control as a governor an area, they're going to get, best case scenario, basically fired and sent off, either maybe still some really crappy position in the middle of nowhere, maybe exiled, but also very likely brought back to Rome and killed, right? So that's why Pilate eventually gives in to the Jews about crucifying Jesus, because they threaten to essentially revolt and get, which will lead to his being deposed and maybe killed. So Herod's kind of in a similar situation. He's already lost this area once with the Maccabees and all that kind of stuff, and had to run back to Rome, and they had to come back and reconquer. So he's not in a good position. And he's like, I just freaking need to hold on for a few more years. Like, I'm almost dead. I'm old. It's like Gary Vee says, like, I'm old and done. I just have to hold on for a couple more years. And that's essentially what he's trying to do. So he's freaking out because they send an envoy in. Anything that goes wrong can reignite this war and this issue. I mean, best case scenario, the Romans get mad and pull him, maybe kill him, but even worse, a war gets started, a border war gets started again, and his area is reinvaded and retaken over by the Parthian Empire. So he's kind of freaking out, and it's kind of like in Avengers Endgame, when they're like, is your friend okay? And Doctor Strange is doing the weird head thing, right? And he's like, I just looked at all the possible futures and possibilities, and Tony's like, how many of them do we win? Do we come out, And he's like, and it's kind of like that. Like Herod's got like one shot at this not going bad. Also, when it says, I got to get back to this set. But when it says, I'm getting kind of going now. Where is he who has been born king of the Jews? That was a very intentional insult, slap in the face that they were kind of giving him, because he has the title of king of the Jews, but he doesn't deserve it. and he's not good at it. And so it's kind of like an insult when they're calling, hey, this, the king of the Jews. No, that's Herod's title. Hey, where's this kid? We've been here. We heard this, was born king of the Jews. Herod's like, I'm the king of the Jews. They're like, no, you're the illegitimate king of the Jews. So it's kind of like a political slap there. So he's like, what am I supposed to do? He obviously wants to kill this kid. Again, I don't understand why, other than being demonically inspired. Well, and the paranoia and the insecurity. There we go. Maybe those were the words I was looking for. And so Herod's not in a good position right here. And that's why he's troubled. And that's why Israel or Jerusalem is troubled, because again, they had this caravan come in and they're like, uh-oh, if this battle starts up again, we're under the Romans right now, but if war starts, like there could literally be like bloodshed in their streets, where if they become ground zero for where the Parthians start marching into their town, the Romans send in troops, they start fighting, it's going to be in their streets. So a lot of nervousness, a lot of nerves during this time. All right, I'm at risk of cooling down. So I think I have 2 more of these. Let's try to get it done. And 15. All right, I think that sums that up pretty well. One other thing I do want to talk about is the wise men. Not only would they have been probably had a military escort, and much more impressive than just a couple guys on camels. Excuse me, they would have. It's the vitamin water. It's getting to me. They also, I think their position in the Parthian Empire, they're kingmakers. They're the ones, they're the magistrates. Again, we get our word magistrate and from them. And their title, they're the ones responsible when a king dies or is deposed, overthrown. Did we get to the end of the? No, there it goes. They're the ones who are in charge of and responsible for crowning the new king, picking a new king. So the fact that they're here, it kind of looks like they're going to go and crown this baby Jesus as king, basically install him as the new king. They were going to overthrow because they had a bad king, as the new king of the Persian Roman Empire. They were like, out of all the different nations throughout history, they're like the least anti-Semitic nation there is. Very friendly with Jews. They've had kings who are partially Jewish, maybe even full Jewish. I don't know. Jesus would have been fully Jewish, obviously, if they crowned him. So they had no issue against the Jews. They would have gladly pulled him as a Jew, as the king of their empire. And you gotta think, this goes back to like a lineage and a history with Daniel. There's a lot of love between the Jews and what is now the Parthian Empire. And that's where we're gonna pick up with Daniel for a minute when we come back. Let's get this next one done. Okay. And 15. All right, we're actually done with that. Dang it, next is the one I don't like the most. We're gonna start those off with just body weight to work on balance. Actually, I might just do them all with body weight for balance and form reasons. We'll see. Maybe we'll do body weight 15, 25. Work our way up. We'll see. It's warm in here. That's one of the problems of this small little room. It's warm. I normally have this candle burning. I'll go ahead and light it really quick, because it helps it from getting all funky and gym smelling in here. But it's warm. Gonna have to like crack a window, let some of the cold air in the future. No one is here. I could open this door, let some air. Let's see, any comments? Susie again saying, hello from my house to yours. I wish you a Merry Christmas. God bless you. Hugs and a bunch of emojis. Good morning, Susie. Merry Christmas again. Okay, we'll look at the rest later. So, if you go back to the book of Daniel, he was basically put in these, okay, remember the story of Daniel in the Lion's Den? Why they hated him? Again, growing up just watching VeggieTales or the story, you kind of think it's because he's being promoted over them. And while that is true, it's a little more specific than that. Not just promoted to like higher positions than them, but also he was given basically like he was made a magi, right? One of these like priest-like magistrate levels. I think he was even in charge of all of them, but I can't remember. I can't remember enough to be that specific. And they hated him for it because that was a position you have to be, it is a hereditary position you're supposed to be born into. And he got placed there by, I believe it was King Darius, if I'm remembering, because he served under like 3 kings. And so he is placed in this hereditary position, kind of like with like Herod, where like Herod didn't quite qualify, but the difference is Herod got it for political reasons, and he wasn't qualified, nor was he good at it, versus Daniel technically wasn't qualified, but was overqualified in fact of like how skilled he was. That's why he got put over it. And so they hated him for it. That's why they did the whole Daniel Lion's Den thing. Well, he goes on to like, I can see out that door through the window out to the road, and it's distracting me. I'd rather be a little warm. We're almost done. Well, we're halfway. Dang it, we're not even halfway. So he essentially, from the commentaries I read, and I hold this position or this opinion too, he essentially forms like his own little cabal where he has this prophecy that he's given, that he's got from the Old Testament and some prophecies and stuff he's given, to where he basically passes them on. And so these wise men, they were not into astronomy and studying the stars. They were into, how do you pronounce it? Oronancy? I don't know how to pronounce it. Maybe if I remember when I'm editing, I'll put it on the screen. And that's basically the interpretation of dreams. If you think back, right, this is all the dream stuff. There's dreams and interpretation of dreams, not studying the signs and stuff in the heavens. So Daniel basically, most likely, has this little cabal that he teaches, and he's able to, my Substack just posted my podcast episode. You should go listen to it, Beneath the Plates. It's all about, I talked yesterday, this morning's is about body dysmorphia. And so he basically teaches them stuff so they see this sign like, hey, this has been passed down through generations from Daniel. And so we're here to see it. So that's, so that's a little bit about who they are. There's a lot of similarities between their government and Israel in some respects, but that's kind of who they are. So they fully have the ability to crown Jesus as their king. In fact, when God warns them in a dream, at the end of it, we see he warns them in a dream to, not to go back to Herod, to go a different way. About 2 years later, history tells us that they actually did find their king and they were able to overthrow because they had a bad king. So they were able to actually replace their current king like 2 years later. So they were on the hunt for a king. They were literally looking to make Jesus the king of the Parthian Empire. And like, geez, how would that have changed history? So, all right, well, let's do these. Dumbbell lunges. 3 sets. What's interesting about that is if that had happened, not only would society, civilization and stuff be so different because we're so influenced by a Western culture, right? And instead we've been influenced by an Eastern culture, but then also like there had been no salvation for sins through the shedding of Jesus' blood, because he would have had an earthly kingdom, and that would have not been good for us. So let's do this. I'm gonna do 10 and 10. We're gonna ignore that says 15 reps. We're gonna do 10 and 10, I think. Okay, start from here. I normally do these walking, so I gotta remember, get back in. I have different muscle memory for these. Oh, 1. I like the soft ground. And 10. Okay, next leg. At least there's only 3 sets of these. 5. 8, 9, and 10. Okay. All right. I need my emotional support, Captain America. I don't like lunges. Sit here with me. Make me feel better about my lunges. Whew. All right. Daniel, all the way down. Could have made a king. So Herod's upset. So I think it's interesting. I will reread this to point it out. It says, and being warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed to their own country by another way. Remember what I said, that not astronomy or astrology, but the interpretation of dreams, again, whatever it's called, neuromancy, whatever, is their specialty. So I think it's interesting. Remember I said in the top of this episode that Mary is visited by an angel? Martha is visited by an angel? All throughout the story of the Hebrews, they're visited by angels. So for them, culturally, for Mary to see an angel, though still probably frightening, was culturally kind of relevant and expected. These guys, these homeboys would be like, what? Why did I have a heart attack and die or something, right? Like even the Hebrews who have a history of angels showing up and guiding their forefathers and their patriarchs and matriarchs, right? They would have been like, what is going on? And so I think it's interesting that God speaks to them in a way that they would understand. And even Joseph, I point out, he was spoken to through a dream, but it was still an angel using a dream to speak to him. So these guys are given a dream by God, and they're warned. So I think it's really interesting that God will meet us where we are, speak to us in how we are. Now we can get too carried away with this and can get too much, but I've always noticed like God will constantly speak to me in ways that are different than other people because I'm different, right? So he speaks to me in a way that would make sense to me. I hear other people the way they talk, about it. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I appreciate that God talks to you that way. I'm glad he doesn't talk to me that way because, And in fact, I actually preached this message on Sunday, and that part specifically really resonated with my daughter. It was actually from Thursday night, our Bible study in Round Mountain. She actually wrote an entire article about it, about how God speaks to her through her own writing. And for me a lot, if you go on Friday, so this will come out Christmas morning, which is the 25th. On the 27th, my podcast episode, it says, the title of it is like, the memory of my grandfather shows me what I need to do, or guides, something like that, right? Something about my grandfather, memories of my grandfather. For me a lot, it's talking. So I will actually go for drives and like take my wife for a drive. I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna talk, or I'll Marco a friend or something, because the talking helps. And so I was doing a podcast episode, and I was talking about my grandfather. Why did that stop? What's going on? TikTok, are you done? Why will it end? We have detected inactivity during your current live. What? Drag the puzzle piece. I'm not, just because I'm not. You thought I just like turned it on and walked away? I'm working out. Just because I haven't like done anything in a while. Anyways, you guys got to comment and interact, because otherwise TikTok's going to shut us down. Jeez. They've been bugging me for like 6 months. You got to go live. You got to go live. Go live for longer than 50 minutes. And they're like, oh, you're inactive. Maybe because I'm not liking and commenting back to you guys. So anyways, I'm talking about my grandpa, and I get towards the end of the episode and I realize I was like talking about something with my grandpa, about like a hypothetical with my grandpa, and I realized, oh, I'm actually subconsciously talking about myself, and it really helped me, honestly, with some things I've been trying to figure out. And so you'll want to go check that out. I'll leave in the comments. I'll have to go back and update this later, because this will come out before that podcast does, but then I'll link up my daughter's post, and then you'll have to just pay attention. Go follow me on Substack. I'll put a link to my Substack, and subscribe. Subscribe is Beneath the Plate, says the podcast. You can listen to that. So with that, I appreciate that God will speak to us in a way that makes sense to us. And right now I wish he would speak to me and say, you don't need to do any more lunges. But I have 2 more sets. So let's do it. All right, 2 more sets. I need some water. Guys, I told you I don't like leg day. I'm suffering now so I can live the rest of my life. Okay. All right. Seven. 10. And 10. Cool, just one more set. Okay, well, I think we have time. I'll actually get into the priest as well. Get this whole thing done. So I said, Herod, the wise men, the magi, and the priests, like the Jewish rabbis at the time. So we're gonna look at it from their perspective now. They completely missed it. Not to be, anti-Semitic or negative against the Jews. No, the religious leaders. They should have known. In fact, there's a verse, Jesus, again, we're really bouncing back and forth between Christmas and Easter. When Jesus comes into Jerusalem, he makes the comment, I'm paraphrasing, but basically says like, woe to you, Jerusalem, how I long to gather you like a hen would gather up her chicks. He's basically making it clear. So there's a prophecy. We talk about Daniel a lot. So Daniel prophesies the triumphant entry, right? Palm Sunday of Jesus to the day, down to the day, okay? So for those of you who are atheists, explain that to me. Well, I know how you would try. You would try to say, well, that chapter of Daniel, is it Daniel 9? I think I said 7 on Sunday when I preached this, but I think it's actually Daniel 9. That chapter actually wasn't written by Daniel. That was written later and added in. But the problem with that is Well, no, you're just saying that just to make it convenient. Like if that was written later, it doesn't matter. It was still translated into Greek like 300 years before Jesus was ever around. So you still have a prophecy problem here. So Daniel is given these 3 prophecies by the angel Gabriel. One of them is basically predicts the triumphal entry of Jesus to the day, okay? When he's holding them accountable for that, he's basically saying, you should have known, right? So we have these wise men who are these not even Jews or what we could consider Christians by any stretch. They are these Parthian wise men. They are able to, based off of Daniel's prophecy, know to come and find him for his birth. Jesus is saying, you are the actual like Jewish priests, the rabbis, like the religious leaders. You should have been waiting. You should have not missed this and should have basically recognized Jesus as the Messiah and not missed it like they did. And so he holds them accountable for that, basically speaks a curse on them, which won't actually be lifted and kind of fulfilled until the book of Revelation, but it's a whole nother story. And so, yeah, he's referencing that there on Palm Sunday. So they miss it. In fact, when Jesus, around the time, calm yourselves, I'm about to say something triggering, about the time that Jesus is 6 or 7, they lose, like the way it would have been said is the sepulcher is removed, right? They lose the right to essentially be self-governing and have their own, for the Sanhedrin to be self-governing. And one of the main things is they lose the ability to enact capital punishment. So all throughout, even the 70 years in Babylonian captivity, they still have this self-governing right where they're basically, yes, they're captive. A lot are taken away into Babylon, but they still are able to, the Sanhedrin and everything's able to manage, and they're able to, capital punishment, all those things. This is why when I teach on Easter, we talk about a lot of the trials they did were illegal. And one of the reasons some of them are illegal is they don't actually have the right to inflict capital punishment. So like when they murdered Stephen, executed Stephen, that was illegal. There's some other ones. In fact, Josephus, a Jewish historian, not a believer, but a Jewish historian, he actually writes about this, about how some other Christian martyrs who were put to death and illegally, and how I think he wrote to, but anyways, someone definitely was brought, made aware, the current administrator, governor, basically the replacement of Herod at this point. This is after his son was deposed, was made aware of this. He just kind of watched it. He didn't care. He didn't want to deal with it. But they were not allowed to execute people. So Stephen, Jesus, others of martyrs, it was illegal because they lost that right. So when this happens, when Jesus is like around 6 or 7, again, being, trigger warning, 6 or 7, somewhere around that time period, there's Herod, then there's his son, and then he's deposed. People hated him even more than Herod. The next guy who comes in, who his name escapes me right now, I apologize. Maybe I'll put it on the screen if I remember. It depends on how much time I spend editing this. It's Christmas Eve, and I have a kind of like service tonight, so I probably won't get to do all the graphics. He is upset at the Jews and removes that. It takes that away, okay? And so the rabbis, the Jewish leaders, they kind of, well, we'll talk about their response here in a second. Let's do the first set of this. So we did these. That's where we'll pick up, is their response and their kind of what they're thinking when that's all going down. So standing dumbbell calf raises, 4 sets of 15 to 20. I might need to do more than that, but maybe not. It's 4 sets. Okay. 15 to 20, so let's just say 20. I think I want to stand this way so I can watch myself. Here we go. 2, 3. I probably could have gone a little more, but we got 4 sets, so we're not gonna take as long a break between these. So I'm just gonna take a drink of water. We'll do this next set, and then we'll talk, and then do 2 more sets back to back. Double check. Yeah, audio's good. Okay, let's go. 2, 3, 4. And 20. Yep, felt a little bit more on that one. Okay, we'll do a little bit longer break to just kind of talk about this real quick. So, their response to having that removed is mourning. They freak out, basically. They tear their clothes, pour ash on their heads. They march down the streets of Jerusalem crying, "Woe to us, the sepulchre has been removed." The actual translation of the prophecy that they're kind of referencing would have been something more along the lines of, the sepulchre won't be removed until the one who it belongs to arrives, give or take, something like that, right? And so their immediate response is, well, we missed the birth of Jesus and didn't realize he was the Messiah. And to this day, the Jews have missed Jesus. As I was talking about with, like, won't be kind of fulfilled until, chapter 7, 9, chapter 9, I don't know. All the chapters confused, somewhere in Revelation, right? So until then, like, the Jews are just missing the fact that Jesus is the Messiah. And then we have, so they're basically mourning because they think the word of God has been broken, been violated, right? Because they have a prophecy saying this wouldn't happen, what the ruler just did, even through the 70 years of Babylonian captivity wasn't done, and this wouldn't happen until we had our Messiah, and we don't have our Messiah, therefore the word is broken, and they mourned. To me, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Because, in all reality, my wife texted me, but I can't read what it is. I won't come up on my phone or on my watch because I'm in the middle of a workout. Can I make it come up? I think I can. Yeah. Let's see. I hear the wind. Oh yeah, it's windy out there. We got some crazy storm coming in. So, to me, that's the dumbest thing, because logically, like, you believe all these other prophecies. Okay, anyways, whatever. They decide to go that way. To me, it's like, why wouldn't you then think, oh, he's got to be here somewhere? Hit the books. Like, when would he have been born? And then they would have stumbled upon the stuff they missed the first time. But instead, it's easier for them to believe that the word of God is broken and wrong than the fact that there's a Messiah running around here somewhere and we missed him. Probably some pride and arrogance issues there, right? Religious people, religious rulers with power, speaking as one of them, I'm a pastor of 2 churches, we can be blinded sometimes when things upset our power base. I get it. It's a struggle, and this is why I try to decentralize, and I have multiple levels of authority over me. I got leadership team, all this stuff, because it's a natural human temptation. So let's go into this. 20. I'm going to do 25. That was 20. And 5. There's 25. I'm just going to take a quick break, drink water, jump back into the next set, and move over to the single leg body weight calf raises. Captain, I don't really need you anymore as emotional support. And you don't really fit on the Star Wars shelf. Okay. Here we go, last set. I'll do 25 again. 5 more. And 5. There we go. Okay. Okay, so they went that route. Here's my question. If I could get in a time machine, go back and ask them one question. Why did you crucify Jesus? Get this. Why did you crucify Jesus for being heretical to a word that you think is broken, aka invalidated? Because if anything's wrong in the Bible, then it's all wrong. Right? Like, that's the whole point. That's our claim, is that it's infallible. It's the infallible word of God. So if you think something as important as a prophecy of the Messiah had been broken, had been unfulfilled, it invalidates the entire thing. So now that means the word, now I know there's a little different because they're the Old Testament, we've got the New Testament as well, but that now means that, like, none of it matters. So why are you still holding all the traditions, all the laws? And the answer to that part is definitely their religious power base, their control, right? But, like, at that point, why are you crucifying homeboy Jesus? Sorry, I shouldn't call Jesus homeboy. I wasn't thinking for a second. Why are you crucifying Jesus? Who, I mean, realistically, he is like our homeboy in that sense. Why are you crucifying Jesus for blaspheming a word that you guys should have ditched 20-something years ago? Because you're like, you admitted in public, you freaking marched down the street saying, oh, it's invalidated, it's broken, it's no longer worth anything. The paper it's written on, the scrolls that it's written on. It was the Christians that uses the codexes, and it wouldn't have been paper, so it would have been the scrolls that it's written on. The time it took to have a scribe write on the scroll, it's not worth that. So then why would you go and crucify a guy for claiming? So really, in that context, from your perspective, some crazy guy who's claiming to be the chosen Messiah off of a word written by other crazy people that ended up not actually working out to be true. I mean, that would be my question. Why not just let him go and be like, oh yeah, he's claiming some prophecy of something we used to believe, but turns out it wasn't real. We don't believe that anymore. But again, the answer is because they're not just going to lay it all down. They're not going to be like, no, we're not going to do this anymore. It makes me think of Brandon Sanderson's Way of Kings, how, and spoiler alert, because this is like book 3, I think, somewhere in there, when, like, you find out that the shards, the shard plate and the shard swords and stuff were living. They were the sprites. Anyways, that, like, they all just went and broke their oaths and it killed them, and all the armor and all the stuff just fell to the ground. And, like, why didn't they? That's essentially what you would think they would have done, is they would have been like, whoop, break our oaths. Like, this is no longer, we're walking away from Judaism. This is no longer a thing. But for whatever reason, they decided to hold on to the traditions and double down on their religious zeal, I guess. And so I think the lesson there for us is really to not forget, not to miss the Messiah for our religious practices. We'll get to that in just a second. What are we doing? Oh, yeah, so, I finished those, right? So now it's the single weight body. Yay, we're almost done. And then I just have one quick wrap-up message, and then we'll read the quote one more time, and we'll be done. So, last chance. Leave your comments, because that will be actually the last thing, is we'll go see if there's any other comments. I know, I got to build up a base. I know, most of you are jumping in for like 2 seconds and then jumping out. I get it. Single day body weight calf raises. I didn't write how many, and I can't check because my phone is live streaming on TikTok. I want to say these are 20 or 25. I think they're 25, because these are 15 to 20. I think these are 25. And I probably need something to hold on to. I don't know if I want to hold on to this. Maybe this? Yeah, we'll just hold on right here. We'll do these right here. Okay, we're going to go right leg first. 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 25 is a lot harder with one leg. 25, even without weights. Okay, sorry, I turned my back on you guys. 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 15, 16, 17, 20, 25, okay. Oh, that's right, that's only one set each, so they might have been as many as 30. Okay, well, it's time for that. I want to just leave with the thought of not to miss the Messiah like so many in this story did. The only ones who seemed to have really any kind of clue were the Magi, and they were there for the wrong reasons. Everyone else was trying to hang on to their own power base. Even the Magi only, they were also concerned with and thinking about their power base and getting a new king, that they pretty much all missed it. They all missed the Messiah. So it's not miss the Messiah. It's a busy season. It's a busy time. And I want to take a second. I know a few people are going to get mad at this, but it's been getting more and more common as of late to rail against, whoa, Christians shouldn't celebrate Christmas. It's a pagan holiday. How is, I get the history, trust me. I was talking about how Christmas is based, a lot of our traditions are based on pagan traditions long before you even knew that was a thing, okay? And there's a few people I'm thinking of, you weren't even saved back when I was in youth as a youth pastor, basically saying, hey, we all freak out about Halloween, but Easter and Christmas also have pagan traditions. You were still living your unsaved lifestyle back when I was first teaching this stuff. So I get it. You don't have to try to lecture me and tell me how they're based on. I get it. But guess what? Every aspect of your life, in one sense or another, the days of the week, the months, having house pets, these are all things that if you're going to be as technical as you're being with Christmas and Easter, these are all things that were based on pagan traditions. Get rid of all your pets. You can't show up to work on Monday. You got to come up with a new, right? All these different things. So you're being hypocritical is what it is, right? You're being religious and hypocritical. I get certain things, right? We don't like the consumerism of this, or we don't like the Santa Claus. But just to say you cannot celebrate Christmas at all. Christmas is a celebration of the birth of our Savior. So you, just like the Pharisees, are missing the Messiah to hold on to your own political and religious beliefs. You become so religious that you've become demonic, okay? And yeah, as I say, if you are completely, you're missing the Messiah for all the religious whatever, that is demonic. That is a modern day form of paganism wrapped up in religion and religious superiority. So if you're one of those people, I'm gonna call you to repent, because you're basically no better off than the pagans doing their Ouija boards and astrology and tarot cards and all these things, all your posts, all your things, all your little about posting the Hebrew this and the blah, blah, blah. And I'm so superior to the rest of you because I'm so much more Jewish and religious than you. You are a pagan in spirit. You're demonically inspired. You've completely missed Jesus for the sake of your religious superiority. That's no different than, you might as well at that point be a high priestess of, whatever you want. Go find an old religion. You have made up a religion. You have a pseudo-Jewish, pseudo-Christianity religious experience that you have placed yourself as your own high priest, and you're making the same mistakes that the Pharisees made. So with that, now I've made everyone mad. One more time, one more triggering thing. Ready? 6, 7. Okay, with that, we're done. We're going to read our quote one more time. I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit, suffer now, and live the rest of your life as a champion. Muhammad Ali. I love you guys. Don't miss the Messiah in the midst of everything else, not even your own religious experience. You know how I'm constantly having to walk away from things, even as a pastor, things that would benefit me, so I don't miss the Messiah. So I don't let my own rulership, quote unquote, which it's really a stewardship, but we can make it a rulership, get in the way of my relationship with the Messiah. I want to encourage you, whether it's you fall into the pagan priestess, pseudo-Jewish Christian religious person I was talking about, any form of whatever that we talked about today. If you find yourself resembling Herod, the Magi, or the Pharisees, really the answer is to repent and come back to Jesus. To ask him to be your Savior, forgiveness of sins, and make him the Lord of your life. Like so many in our story today failed to do and missed out on. So with that, have a blessed day. I'll see you guys. So this is Christmas. Merry Christmas. And I won't see you live streamers tomorrow, but I'll probably see you guys tomorrow. I'll do an evening workout and it will go live the next day. Love you guys. Blessed day.